Okay, evening everyone. So delighted that you're able to join us this evening in the first of hopefully what will continue to be a really useful and helpful network session 1 tonight. So delighted that you're able to join us, and as Iona mentioned, the session will be recorded, and that's just so that we can offer it a bit wider across our own networks, gives us a chance to reflect on it as well, because we will be sharing quite a lot of national updates in this first part of the session, and it can be offered as part of an anytime learning offer. So what you're seeing on the screen just now is just a brief outline of what tonight's session will involve. So I'll provide a bit of an Education Scotland update for the first 10-15 minutes, and our regional leads from Forth Valley and West Lothian and the Northern Alliance will do a quick update as well. I'm delighted that Gemma Patterson from Falkirk joined us tonight to do a bit of sharing practice, and then we'll get into some discussion groups. So that's really what the overview will look like as far as what to expect in tonight's session. So what you're seeing here is just a bit of a map of the Regional Improvement Collaborative, and you'll see there Forth Valley and West Lothian and Northern Alliance, and we're joined with representatives from across both of those tonight. So just a quick introduction. My name's Maria Docherty. I am Education Scotland Numeracy and Maths team. Iona, do you want to come in quickly? I know you've said hello, but just quickly say hello.
Hello, I'm your friendly Numeracy Maths Education Officer from the North. I'm Iona, and I'm a secondary specialist, definitely not an early years specialist. So Maria is the guru in the team for all things early years, not me. But delighted to be along and delighted to see you all tonight.
Thanks, Iona. And we also have John Neeson on the call tonight. John, do you want to come in and say hello?
I will indeed. Thank you very much, Maria. Welcome to everyone. I'm John Neeson. I'm the Senior Education Officer with Education Scotland with the Numeracy and Mathematics team as well. And my background is primary and early years. Previously, it was a primary head teacher. So welcome to everyone, and I'll hand you back to Maria.
Thanks, John. Thank you. So please just continue to introduce yourself and where you're from in the chat pane. I know that you've been doing that already. We were going to do a bit of a speed dating activity tonight, but we were conscious of time, and also we've never done it via Teams before. So if anyone's done that, please post in the chat that you've done that, and if you think that would be useful for session 2, we can think about building that in. But what you're seeing here is just a map of where we are located. We're really fortunate in our team that we have an education officer in each of the regional teams, as you can see. We do support in quite different ways according to whatever needs are identified across our local authorities and our regional teams. And we support each other regionally and nationally, because we come with different backgrounds and different levels of expertise in different areas. I'm just going to outline in the next couple of slides some of the main areas of our responsibilities, both regionally and kind of nationally, and I'll probably go on mute again, so we'll see how it goes. It didn't do it that time. There we go. So hopefully you can see and the slide and hear me still, but this is examples here of some of the work that we've carried out previously across our regions. We work alongside local authority and RIC leads to support improvement. We quality assure resources or guidance documentation. We ensure that it's got that national message and that it aligns with national recommendations. We also co-deliver and sometimes deliver on our own some CLPL sessions with networks or groups or clusters and staff teams. As I mentioned before, it depends a lot on local and regional priorities, but our role is essentially to add value to whatever is already on offer at local authority level. In essence, we're happy to support anything numeracy and maths related. What you're seeing here is a snapshot again of some of the stuff that we do nationally. Our national remits are very busy and very varied. Across our team, we've got representation across many different platforms, including universities, external mathematical associations, working with partner organisations, as well as delivering and evaluating professional learning sessions. We have membership across different networks as well, and that allows us to listen to and work directly alongside the system. We try to support as many different layers of the system as we can. We're currently delivering a comprehensive offer for newly qualified teachers. And again, we'll share some of what we've been sharing and what we've been delivering in some of our resources a wee bit later on. What you're seeing on the slide just now is one of the national drivers for change and improvement. This is the Making Maths Count report. Some of you will be very familiar with this. It was published in 2016, but it really does remain relevant in its recognition of what is important in teaching numeracy and maths. Its key themes, as you'll see on the slide, along with the report's more detailed recommendations, underpin the work that we do in any of our contexts that we've mentioned already, either regionally, locally or nationally. We aim to support anyone in maths education to help Scotland become a more positive nation. And as you know, this should be stressed as early as the early stages. Our focus on learning and teaching has the aim of improving the confidence of practitioners, learners and families. But we all have a role to play in realising the aims and the recommendations highlighted within this report. The quote there, that first line of that quote, Scotland has a maths problem, is the first line in that report. And we think that unfortunately, the quote that you're seeing on screen just now is still quite prevalent. It still rings true in some places. It's still deemed to be okay to be rubbish and to say that you're rubbish or you find maths really difficult. We're hoping with the amount of networks and people that we work alongside that message will be changing, and it is already starting to move in that direction. Quite often part of our role is to develop deep understanding and raise confidence levels associated with numeracy and maths. And we know that a lot of the misunderstandings and misconceptions, but also those beliefs and attitudes aligned to numeracy and maths can start in the early years. So it's really important that we work together to start to mitigate against these. And sometimes, as you know, these attitudes can be deep-rooted, can be passed on quite subtly sometimes by family members, especially if their school experience was not always a positive one. But it's up to us as a collective to try every day to challenge this and to make sure that we see numeracy and maths as fun, accessible for all and relevant to children's lives now and in the future. What you're seeing coming up just now is one of the recommendations in the Making Maths Count report was to evaluate the quality of children and young people's learning experiences and attainment in maths and to share examples of good practice. So that led to a thematic review in numeracy and maths in 2019. In 2020, significant work to support local authorities and school leaders, practitioners and families to engage and explore the findings of the report were planned. But obviously, as a result of COVID, those opportunities required to be placed on hold. So it's safe to say that the awareness of the thematic and the opportunity for those working at all levels of the system to digest and engage with its messaging has been fairly limited. And from the inspection, the key questions were asked and answered, and those are, as you see on the screen, what's working well but consistently well? What is improving? And there were some insights shared on emergent practice and some insights on various approaches that seem to be working. But essentially, what do we need to do further? What do we need to focus more attention on? Where are the challenges in our delivery and how can we further improve those? We also had some questions, some comments and cameos which provided real life insights into practice being delivered by schools and centres, and that helps us to reflect and consider our own personal strengths and maybe highlight some of those areas for development. So some of the challenges that came from that report, and I won't go over them all just now because I'm conscious of time, but a couple of the things that I wanted to draw your attention to were the curriculum needs to be constantly reviewed to make sure it's relevant. So how effective are we capturing those real world numeracy and maths contexts, leading to increased motivation and appropriate progression in children and young people's learning. Professional learning, whilst it was seen to be deepening staff knowledge and skills, wasn't yet resulting in significant improvements in outcomes for children and young people. Another challenge that was identified was there was a scope for early learning and childcare practitioners to further explore the role of play settings as context for learning and numeracy, for example, through professional dialogue and discussion and also some professional learning. And again, over the next few slides, I'll share some of the links to some of the professional learning that we've offered as a team. But these opportunities that were outlined and these challenges that were outlined in the thematic provide an opportunity for us to ask why and consider ways that we might look to improve. So within GLOW, we have a number of professional learning communities, and as you can see, you can link to the sites for early years, also developing the young workforce, the Scottish Attainment Challenge, the Moderation Hub, looking at assessment and moderation. Each curricular area also has a PLC, which you can access from this page, and the Numeracy and Maths team have done a power of work over the last probably 2 years, making our PLC a bit of a one-stop shop for pretty much everything. I meant to say at the beginning that I've created a Padlet where all of these links that I'm sharing on the slides will be hosted and housed so that I can share that with you at the end. And it just gives you one place to access all the links that you can see popping up on the individual slides at the moment. Oops. So as I said, we have our one-stop shop, and that is our PLC. It's updated on a regular basis to include recent blogs from across the system. We've got some pedagogical mini guides looking at different concepts or approaches. We've also got thing links that support classroom practice. We've also got our professional learning resources that we are adding to. We've just added to quite recently, but they and the accompanying videos are all uploaded to this professional learning community, and we'll share a wee bit more and talk a wee bit more about them in a minute or so. You do need a Glow login to access the PLC, but we also have a lot of our resources available on the National Improvement Hub. See, these are the PLRs that I mentioned just a second ago. We've put together some 6 now. We're up to 6 professional learning resources, and you'll see on the screen a bit of a flavour of the content of those. Again, we'll talk a wee bit more about these, and we'll provide links in that Padlet that I mentioned earlier on. So the main suite of professional learning that we as a team put together in 2020 was that suite of professional learning resources. What they do is they cover each of the organisers for numeracy, but they outline effective learning and teaching approaches, and that covers early through to 4th level. They highlight where links can be made across learning. They also contain a number of reflective questions, and the idea of those is that they can be used by groups or individuals when they're looking to plan for change or improvement. We also have a guidance document and a glossary which can be used, and that helps support that package. Essentially, the documents can be used to support understanding within numeracy and maths as they look at those different teaching and learning approaches, but also those pedagogical approaches. What you're seeing on the screen just now is a series of videos that we produced, and that was in the back of a series of national webinars, and we produced these bite-sized videos to help complement the professional learning resources. We continue to share these messages at local and at RIC levels, but we have got access to these videos that we'll share the link with you. They are deliberately bite-sized videos so that they can be used by schools and individual practitioners as part of their own professional learning. In the videos, as well as the PLRs, it's about that teaching for understanding, not just that quickness and that fluency, but teaching for that depth of understanding. So using concrete materials, using visual approaches to support the transition to those written and mental methods. So definitely worth a look at if you're not familiar with them already. Okay, what you're seeing here is a link to the National Improvement Hub, so you won't need a Glow login for this, but we have a landing page on the National Improvement Hub which will give you a one-stop shop with all of those links to the the professional learning resources that I've mentioned earlier on. So it just means that if people don't have a Glow login, they can access quite a lot of their documentation through the National Improvement Hub. During Maths Week Scotland 2021, we launched our early level Sketchnote. Some of you again might be familiar with this already, but this helped to complement our package of support. This resource provides a visual representation of effective learning and teaching approaches to support confidence, knowledge and understanding of numeracy and number processes essentially at early level. The Sketchnote has been used in different ways with different establishments. Some have used it as a discussion point with staff teams. Others have used it with learners, asking them what they recognise in the Sketchnote, and some are using it for transition conversations too. Parentzone website is a good one to be aware of because it's got lots of really important help and advice if you're working with parents or carers. There's information there about school and local authorities, some of those local needs and entitlements. There's a bit about the curriculum in general. It's definitely worth making sure your parents are well aware of it if they're not already aware of it. There's a page within this landing page that highlights this glossary that I'm sharing with you just now. It's got definitions there of a lot of the terms that we use. And although we try not to be driven by jargon, we quite often slip into that way of doing it. But this can be helpful for sharing with practitioners or indeed parents. So again, it's just that one-stop shop for any of the maths language that might be useful in sharing a wee bit wider. During the very first lockdown, Education Scotland teamed up with the National Parent Forum for Scotland, the Scottish Government and Count on Us to deliver a series of webinars, and these were aimed at parents and carers who were supporting their children who were working from home, learning at home. These webinars were recorded and they're still available on the National Parent Forum's YouTube channel, which again I'll provide a link for at the end. Might be of use to schools and early years establishments if they're engaging with family learning. Definitely another one worth visiting if you're not familiar with it already. So just about coming to the end of my update, you'll be aware hopefully of the Scotland Learn materials. Again, a one-stop shop for education in its more wider sense, but we as a team gathered together all the published resources and mapped these to the relevant experiences and outcomes, as you can see on the slide. And we're finding that practitioners are saying this is really helping their planning. It's easier then to find materials that are mapped to the relevant experiences and outcomes. So it just makes that finding of materials a wee bit easier and again worth sharing across your networks. So I'm just going to stop there just now and I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to pass on to Laura and Ashley, and they're going to share with you a bit of a regional update from the Forth Valley and West Lothian Regional Improvement Team. So it's over to you.
Thanks, Maria. I'll just share my screen. So hopefully you can see that okay. Is that all right, Laura?
Yeah, thanks, Ashley.
Thanks.
So just to introduce ourselves, we are both numeracy principal teachers for the Forth Valley and West Lothian Regional Improvement Collaborative. I have a substantive post at Turfickin Primary in West Lothian, and Ashley, her substantive post is at Larbert Village Primary School in Falkirk, and we took on the role of numeracy PT in August of this year. And from our sort of early conversations across the four authorities within our Regional Improvement Collaborative, we mapped out an improvement plan in terms of what we could support and what our local authorities were looking at from us, what they wanted help with. And one of those priorities, unsurprisingly, came out as being early learning and childcare, and looking at supporting settings to get it right with high quality numeracy experiences, interactions and environments. Those all fit in beautifully with our wider RIC values of equity, empowerment and collaboration, and making sure that we are promoting them throughout all of the work that we do. And in line with that as well, some of the things that Ashley's going to come on to talk about through developing the high quality experiences and interactions, it's looking at supportive CLPL, which is responsive to practitioner needs and local authority needs, and also looking at supporting our ASN settings and trying to get it right for practitioners working in these areas where sometimes they've felt a bit they've been left out of some CLPL opportunities. So I'll pass on to Ashley, who will explain in more detail about what that has looked like with an early years slant.
Thanks, Laura. So here we have what we have been working on, or some current programmes that we have going on within our early years sector. So we are working alongside the early years team in Stirling to help launch their new numeracy framework called Rainbow, and we have been looking for examples of good practice from across our RIC so that we can exemplify what quality learning and teaching in numeracy at early level looks like. So we would love to hear from you if you think that you have good examples of practice that you could offer so that we can use them as exemplars to help support Stirling on their early years numeracy journey. We are also running a programme of sessions with Les Staves, who is a maths and ASN specialist, and these programmes are to look at how we can support learners with severe and complex needs and how we can provide them with quality learning and teaching in numeracy. So through Les's work, he looks at the foundations and the roots of maths and how maths can come from a variety of environments and through a variety of experiences such as travel. It can come from leisure opportunities. It could come from activities such as baking. So Les is working with us to provide this programme for our ASN sector, looking at play-based pedagogy to help support our learners with severe and complex needs. We are also running a play pedagogy programme in collaboration with our literacy work stream, and we are using this programme to share practice from across our RIC, and I'll come to what that programme looks like in a little bit more depth in the next slide. But some of the other priorities that have been going on in terms of early years across our RIC is that we have some of our early years team leading a programme for senior leaders with support from Katrina Gill from Education Scotland, looking at how senior leaders can lead their school through play pedagogy, and that has been a really successful programme so far. So that's some of the work that we're doing within early years. But here we have our flyer for our play pedagogy programme. So we have already had 2 of our sessions, the first 2 that you see here. So we had a practitioner from Allen's Primary in Stirling looking at how they have developed their use of outdoor play and the environment in P2 and beyond. And then we heard from Mary Jalland, who is a Primary 1 teacher at Carmuir's Primary in Falkirk, and she looked at the role of technology within play-based learning and how she uses apps and technology to document children's learning and to give them the skills that they need for future life and learning. So the next up 2 coming sessions will look at responsive planning, documentations and observations from Keneal Primary in Falkirk, and they use this approach not only in P1 but also in P2, so they've really embedded that play pedagogy within P2 as well. And we will also be hearing from one of our early years pedagogues in Falkirk to look at opportunities to write through play in lower primary. And then our final session, we will hear from Karen Shore Primary in Falkirk and how they have used play-based pedagogy for quite a number of years now into P3, and they're starting to introduce it further up the school as well, but they will look at their use of helicopter stories to promote playful writing experiences, and also the work they have done with Kim Scott in terms of playful numeracy experiences. And to finish off that session, we'll hear from Springfield Primary in West Lothian and how they have developed block play across their school and how they have ensured that they've embedded this as a whole school approach. So as you can see on the flyer here, we have you can sign up for these sessions on CPD Manager, and they will all take place on our Primary Sea Change Hub. So the feedback we've had so far from the sessions we've had have been really positive, and we're looking forward to sharing more examples of good practice across our RIC. And here we just have our email addresses. So if anyone has examples of good practice that they would be interested in sharing, or if anyone would like to hear a little bit more about our early years offers from Forth Valley and West Lothian, then please get in contact with myself or Laura. And as you can see, we've also got our Twitter handle and our generic one for our RIC here, where we will share good practice and share any upcoming CLPL and more offers that we've got going on. So please feel free to follow us. But I'll stop sharing just now. That was a very quick overview, but happy to take any questions if anyone has any on those.
Thank you, Ashley. If anyone has got any questions, just feel free to post something in the chat pane. That's absolutely fine. If not, we do have a discussion element to tonight's session a wee bit later on. I don't see anything coming through the chat or any hands up. So what I'll do is I'll pass on to Ruth. Ruth, if you want to come in and do a bit of an introduction.
Hi there, I'm just going to get a slide up for you. My name's Ruth Reid and I'm the Early Years Workstream Lead for the Northern Alliance. And I can see there's a few folks here who know me already, and great to see them here tonight, so great. The Northern Alliance is really the 8 local authorities in the north of Scotland, so that's from Campbelltown in the south to Shetland in the north. And we have a focus on quality and leading to improved outcomes for all our children and young people. And you can see I've popped a little QR code on here just to link you to our SharePoint, which is, I think that will take you to the main hub, and within that you'll be able to find everything from early years, primary curriculum, mathematics and numeracy. Go and have a wee look. You will need a Glow login to get to that. And I think if the slides are going to be put up on the Padlet, Maria, then you'll be able to just get the link to that in there. So that might be helpful for folks. The Early Years Workstream has got a wide range of services, so you can see there's a wee breakdown there. We've got outdoor nurseries and childminders. And you can see that it's a very diverse kind of region. With a massive number of different kind of very remote and also city-based services too, so lots and lots there. So what do we offer? I'm just going to give you a very, very quick whistle-stop tour here. The main delivery of our offer is done through team spaces. So within Glow, in the centre there, we've got Early Years Connect to Collaborate, which is our big team, where I think lots of people who are here tonight have actually delivered in there. I know that Donna and Gemma, that we're going to hear from in a wee while, have delivered in there, delivered CLPL for us. We've got 400 or so practitioners in there, and you can see there's a QR code that will link you to there. Please do go over and have a join if you would like to, and have a look and see what we've got to offer. We've also got the SharePoint, which I've referred to earlier. We have a Northern Alliance Early Years STEM team as well, which might be of interest to folks who are here tonight. You could go and have a wee look in there. Janie Irvin from the North team and I are running a drop-in session fairly regularly in there at the moment. There was one, I think, last Thursday, and I think there's one the last Thursday of every month. So do come along and have a wee look at that for all things STEM. There's also curriculum improvement for early years, which is the main focus of our CLPL at the moment. We've run 3 cohorts of that, and it's an 8-week session where we've looked in depth at curriculum rationale. So that's been a really fruitful, and lots of use of improvement tools going on in there too. So that's been interesting for everyone. And I'm just going to give you a very, very quick whistle-stop tour because I don't want to hold us back tonight, but I am going to plug the WES, the World Education Summit. If you're in the Northern Alliance, every practitioner that works in the Northern Alliance will be able to have free access to the World Education Summit, and that is I think it's the 21st of March for a week. There are lots of live sessions, everything from John Hattie to Anna Fgrave, and all those sessions will remain up for a year, and you'll have free access to it. If you are already in a school and that's where you're based, then one named person from that school can be nominated and go along to that, and you'll all have access to it for a year. So I'm just going to plug that there. Do come back and follow us on any early years on Twitter, and I did put my email address in there. It seems to have just done a wee disappearing act, but that should be on the slides when you come to look at them later. So very, very quick, but nice to be here tonight, and I hope if you've got any questions, do just pop them into chat.
Thank you, Ruth, and thank you, Laura and Ashley again. So that's the beginning of our session with the national updates being covered, and our regional teams both given an update on some of the work that they've been supporting recently, or indeed will continue to support into the future. We're going to move on just now to, I'm just going to introduce Gemma Patterson. So Gemma comes from you might be familiar with Gemma actually, because she's been doing a lot of work, and I know she's very visible on Twitter as well. So Gemma's kindly offered to come along tonight to share with us some of her journey in Falkirk, with a focus on Marvellous Mealtimes. So I'm just going to hand over to you, Gemma, if you are ready to share.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gemma.
Okay, so hopefully everybody can see that. But evening everybody, and thank you for joining us tonight. I'm delighted to be along to really speak again about Marvellous Mealtimes, but this time with a kind of numeracy and mathematics focus. And I think it's really useful for us to speak about natural experiences that children do experience every single day, and really kind of delve a wee bit deeper in how numeracy and mathematics, as well as other areas of the curriculum, are kind of highlighted and promoted. So what I'm going to do in the next 15 to 20 minutes is really just give you a wee overview of numeracy in Falkirk, a wee intro to Marvellous Mealtimes, especially if you're not from Falkirk and you've not really heard about our approach, and then a wee bit of information about how we promote numeracy and mathematics through the Marvellous Mealtimes approach within our settings. So in Falkirk, we really follow a natural numeracy approach. This came around in the very first lockdown when we were kind of thinking about CLPL for people when they were working at home, and we had a really a good think about what numeracy kind of meant to us. We had been working with our early years pedagogues, so for those of you who are not aware, our early years pedagogues in Falkirk are known nationally as our Equity and Excellence Leads. So I lead that team of Equity and Excellence Leads in Falkirk, as well as working on different approaches such as Marvellous Mealtimes. So we have worked the last few years on thinking about natural numeracy with our central team of teachers as well. So we came up with this notion of natural numeracy in Falkirk, split into 3 sections, and it's really looking at Pennyman's Maths Pyramid, the key concepts of early numeracy and maths, and then looking at intentional pedagogy, so how do we plan to support young children's early numeracy and maths. And it's for all practitioners, and then our proposal to teams is that everybody would access this within the team, so it's a core part of CLPL. It means everybody's experiencing the same type of professional learning, and then we find the impact then is greater within settings as well. So just a wee overview of each section. So we used this maths pyramid away back in 2018 when we were researching this brand new Equity and Excellence Leads, and found it really useful when we were really thinking about what numeracy meant to us, especially in their earliest years. So we know that numeracy is the ability to apply maths concepts in all areas of life, that children start learning numeracy skills from the time they're born, and that learning happens from watching and experiencing numeracy in action in everyday life, and from engaging in play and exploration. So from that, what we've said in Falkirk is matching, sorting and classifying, shape, number and counting, measure and position and movement are core early numerical and mathematical concepts for us. And then we would use this for our planning and documentation of children's learning. And then when we're thinking about intentional pedagogy, we know that numeracy is a natural priority, and that for young children it's best developed through play and real life experiences. And as well as planning targeted next steps for individuals, we must ensure that we regularly plan, observe, assess and evaluate the numerical and mathematical opportunities we offer children through core provision. And in Falkirk, we use core provision as our universal targeted approach for children when we're thinking about what each of our areas within our ELC particularly offer children across the breadth of the curriculum. And we know that children's progress should be recorded in some way using individual profiles or documentation in other forms. And then there's just a few wee links to quality indicators as well, so the work that we're doing links to HIGWELK and different things as well. It now also linked to the Making the Connections document that the Forth Valley and West Lothian Rick developed, and that just brings together HIGWELK and the quality framework from Cane Inspectorate and other documents, so that we've got one document moving forward, because as we know in early years particularly, we've got lots of documents to think about, so it's good to have them in one place. So for Falkirk people, you've probably heard me speak about Marvellous Mealtimes quite a lot over the last few years. But I just wanted to do a wee intro about what Marvellous Mealtimes is for those that don't really know about our approach. So Marvellous Mealtimes is our approach to holistic snacking mealtimes, and that's really as the result of the 1140 expansion. So Marvellous Mealtimes is around 4 years old, and it developed on the back of 2 initial pilot settings, going to 1140 and having not a very good experience in the school dining hall. So on the back of that, we really established Marvellous Mealtimes to ensure that children had high quality experiences in all aspects of their 1140 journey. So we ensure that all children can enjoy unhurried snacking mealtimes in as relaxed an atmosphere as possible. That's from the health and social care standards. That it provides rich opportunities to foster children's social wellbeing. That it's regarded as a rich learning opportunity, and we expect that skilled staff plan carefully for these experiences, and that it also plays a key role in intervening early with young children and families and fostering a healthier relationship with food. So, why Marvellous Meals? And this is a question I'm asked probably all the time. So, in August 2018, Bow House and Nethermains began their 1140 journey. We were providing lunch for 40 plus children in our school dining hall, so everybody stopped at 11:15, tidied up, hands washed, lined up, along to the hall. It's a very structured experience, as you can imagine. And for us, it really became apparent that this was not the approach we hoped for our children would experience, especially when we had just went to 1140, so returning children were experiencing longer days. Our wee ones who had just started and were brand new were settled in their ELC environment, and then were being exposed to another environment in a really rushed manner. And we just found things like eating patterns, eating habits, relationships just weren't great for us. So we used quality improvement, and we gathered some data, and data told us that children's eating patterns in the dining hall were really inconsistent. Children's levels of wellbeing were really low, and the quality interactions weren't great either. So after a couple of weeks of planning with our catering teams, we moved to our ELC environments for children to experience a relaxing hurried lunch approach. We had smaller sit-ins, and lunch was then able to take place over an hour and a half, and then we developed home-like and nurturing spaces. And Marvellous Mealtimes has really developed and come into its own and established itself as a core experience in Falkirk. So after we moved to ELC, the data told us that on average 80% of children's eating patterns improved, 100% of children's wellbeing over lunch increased, and the quality of interactions were high. So we knew from the 1140 expansion that every setting in Falkirk especially would be entirely different. So with that, Marvellous Mealtimes might look a wee bit different, because who knew things like food routes and steps could hinder getting food to a nursery. It took a lot of planning and a lot of networking and collaboration with our catering team in Falkirk. So we established our Marvellous Mealtimes values, and what we have said is no matter what your Marvellous Mealtimes experience looks like, these values have to be underpinned really in the approach that you develop, so that all children in Falkirk have that really high quality experience, and that Marvellous Mealtimes is regarded as a rich learning experience. So 3 years on, nearly 4, I would definitely say that Marvellous Mealtimes it's been adopted in all Falkirk ELC settings, but there is ongoing support there to ensure that the approach is developed to the highest quality, especially for settings who just came on to 1140 in August here. We're just trying to give them a wee bit more support on how Marvellous Mealtimes would run. We've developed a suite of materials to support the implementation and to evidence impact. It's again regarded as a rich learning experience, and it's part of core provision. We've shared it wider across Scotland, as you heard from Ruth there. We've had various case studies that you're able to find online as well, and it's regarded as excellent practice as some care inspector inspections as well, which has been really great for our practitioners to have that validated, because they've put a lot of work into it. And while I'm in the background developing Marvellous Mealtimes, it's really been the practitioners in Falkirk that have taken Marvellous Mealtimes, ran with it, and made it the experience it is. So we're really proud of that in Falkirk. But what I want to do tonight is really think about the key concepts of numeracy that we say are important in Falkirk, and then adapt them to how that we might look in Marvellous Mealtimes. So we have a a kind of Marvellous Mealtimes through STEM through Marvellous Mealtimes poster, and one of the exercises I had to do while developing that was to really think about the E's and O's and how Marvellous Mealtimes covered the E's and O's. So actually from this you can see that Marvellous Mealtimes does cover all aspects of the curriculum. Health and wellbeing and literacy are the two largest focuses, but then it's closely followed by numeracy and mathematics, science, for example. So we know that learning happens, we know it's a rich experience, it's just in how we facilitate that as practitioners. So I try to rein in my examples a wee bit, and folk who know me know that sometimes I need to be reined in because I could go on and on with this, but this just gives you a wee bit of flavour of how Marvellous Mealtimes definitely does lend itself to numeracy and mathematics. So when you're thinking about matching, sorting and classifying, we know that young children will spontaneously collect, group and sort items which interest them. Adults need to tune into this fascination to support the mathematical learning it offers. So, for example, most of our settings, children do self-registration during lunch, and usually they match their photo. It might be that they group their photos to their key group, or into the other different kind of classifying prompts, but really that could be an example for that. We know that children can find their own ingredients for recipes by matching photographs to the ingredients. Our V1 shop and our larger approach that links to Marvellous Mealtimes really lends itself to ensuring that children have real life experiences. They might make their own shopping lists, and again, photos and different visuals and non-verbal prompts are really, really important to ensure that we're also inclusive as well. And then we encourage children to help sort out different size plates, cups and cutlery. So really simple things that I'm sure we all do every single day. It's just being aware that these link to numeracy and mathematics and thinking about how these experiences then become learning for children. And as you can see in the bottom photo with the V1 set in the table, this V1's actually from one of our centres and she's in the baby room. So this V1's just one. But in that particular setting, they help set the table, self-serve their own food. So Marvellous Mealtimes is inclusive for all of our children. So when we think about shape, we know that all children actively explore and experience shape, space and position in 2 and 3 dimensions, as well as playing with pattern and symmetry. It's really important to emphasise particulars of these during play experiences and to model the associated mathematical language for children. So you can encourage children to explore the shape of different foods, and this wee one with the apples is matching the photos, which goes back to the previous concept, but she was also talking about how the apples were round. Also children can experience symmetry, for example, through really simple experiences like making fruit faces or pizza faces. Again, things we do all the time, but it's just making each other aware that these are experiences that we can facilitate, and provocations are really good for that as well. Number and counting is huge, and again I could probably go on and on about this, but there's lots of different crucial elements of number and counting, but they're really the building blocks in young children's development of counting skills, such as one-to-one correspondence, cardinality and summatising. So we know that children can explore number while helping to set the table. So how many plates and cups do we need? Children are also beginning to recognise number using recipes, and to talk about amounts and weight and different things like that. Measure, so we bake and cook as part of Marvellous Mealtimes. Again, that links to our larger approach. So children will make additional options alongside their lunch, or they might make different types of food using Recipe of the Week initiatives, for example. So measure's huge when we're baking and cooking. And again, we know that children learn most about measurement through real life experiences and using real tools. And I think that's again a crucial element of Marvellous Mealtimes, but also numeracy, that children are using real tools to experience the different mathematical concepts. So these contribute to their understanding of length, weight, capacity, amounts and time, and their knowledge of measurement vocabulary develops during everyday conversations while taking part in such activities with adults and knowledgeable peers. So again, children explore weights of ingredients through baking and cooking. And this wee one who's mixing his egg in a jug is from the baby room as well. And he's not quite one yet, I don't think. So again, it just kind of goes back to ensuring that we're embedding this from children's earliest years, and again, using those real tools to encourage children to embrace real life experiences. So position and movement, I think sometimes can be probably an aspect that can be a wee bit more difficult for people, but I think it's really, really important that we develop this as a part of a key concept for numeracy. So we're encouraging children to understand themselves, so they need to know their own capabilities of different parts of their own bodies and how to move them in relation to their environment. Children will naturally explore the space around them, which we know, and using their senses to explore everything. They'll learn to explore their space appropriately in relation to themselves and others around them. And mealtime spaces should allow for children to have free movement and should allow easy access to ingredients and materials for children. And you'll probably find in Falkirk that most of our Marvellous Mealtime spaces either have old Welsh dressers or a larger area that children can access themselves, so that there is a variety of different ingredients and tools that they have access to. And because we're giving quite a large area of our spaces over to Marvellous Mealtimes, it needs to be an area that's used all the time. So if children aren't eating, so if they're not having breakfast or lunch or snack in the afternoon, then it's used for baking and cooking. And hopefully once we can get families back in, we can resume family lunches and family big little cook time things as well. Identifying, so it's really essential for children's development that they become able to identify where they are and how to get to another position through identifying movements such as forwards, backwards, up and down. And again, we do this every single day as practitioner. Again, it's just tuning into that and thinking how we can develop children's learning through natural experiences. And then that describing aspect, so being able to describe their own, others, or objects' positional movements, allow them to access, cooperate and problem solve within their environment. For example, this may involve describing how a particular tool, like a whisk, moves, or how you might serve the ingredients in a bowl. Really, really simple discussions, but really powerful discussions for wee people when we're developing their mathematical knowledge. So that was really a wee whistle-stop tour, I think, of Marvellous Mealtimes and how that links to mathematics and numeracy. Again, I'm sure you could create your own evidence and link how your snack time or your mealtime experiences link to mathematical and numerical concepts. And I think that's a really rich experience. For Falkirk people, you can access our SharePoint and you know that all our Marvellous Mealtimes resources are on there, but if anybody's wanting to find out a wee bit more information, then just give me a wee email or give me a wee follow on Twitter and get in touch, and I'm quite happy to share because it's good to have a wee look at what other people are doing as well, as we know. But thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Gemma. That was amazing. I've read your blog and I know a bit about what's going on, but it's always really interesting to hear you speak about something that you're clearly very, very passionate about, so thank you. It takes me back to one of those quotes that I mentioned earlier on when I shared the thematic, and the quote was, one of those challenges was that the curriculum needed constant review to ensure its relevance. For example, capturing those real world numeracy and mathematics experiences, and I think what Gemma has outlined there is a really good way of actually doing that, so putting that learning into context and ensuring we have those real life experiences, because that's when we'll get the motivation and the children will see the relevance in what they're doing. And also, you mentioned yourself there, Gemma, it's about those really creative experiences and provocations that we provide, but almost making sure we have those links to what we're doing and how that bridges with the experiences and outcomes in that early level. So it's been great to hear from you. So